So my name's Gabriel Hirschberger, and I'm the host of the 20 Mile March podcast, and I'm so happy to bring with you my special guest, Tara Green.
Yay.
Thanks for joining us. How are you feeling right now?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here, Gabriel.
Yes. It's awesome. So I've just got to know Tara, and she is a very empathic individual, and she told me that I'm sort of empathic, which I've never thought of myself as that at all, actually. I've just been struggling with my emotions and decided I got fired from my lack of control of my emotions about a month ago. So that just gave me so much drive to get it under control, right? Don't react from my emotions. Instead, process them, get some fucking control of it. I was like, do I say that? It's yeah, this is my podcast. I can say that.
It's like riding the dragon.
Yeah.
You got to be prepared for that.
Right. And so I'm super excited to have you on here because I've never had a guest that's so kind of at that in touch with themselves. They're able to talk about their emotions freely, sort of not have as many blocks. And I think as entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, it is a roller coaster. I have so many people that are up and down. And when you're down, it can be a long time till you're up. And sometimes it can be a short week or a day, or sometimes it's months for those. And that, I feel so much empathy for those. And I want those who've been down for a while to hear this podcast and to be able to get back up and ride that roller coaster back up to where they should be, back up high, performing, achieving, doing their calls, making their, website, whatever it is, whatever their dream is, working on it. So I was wondering if, with that introduction, if there are things, one thing that you do that can help with those entrepreneurs that are feeling down or have been down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Entrepreneurship opens a can of whoop ass. And understanding what all these emotions are and how to use them has been a quest of mine, not just so that I could empower me in my business, but so that I could actually function and have a decent interaction with people around me and actually have a good day. So it was simply my desire to feel good in the moment that drove a lot of the work that I've done. And I would say the number one thing that I've done that's made the most difference, and it's not an easy thing to do, but it is a simple thing, is to find out what you actually feel about something and be okay verbalizing it to someone or writing it down or just saying, damn, that's hard, to yourself in prayer, but actually putting words to the feelings that are living inside our bodies, the emotions that express out of us, was massively liberating.
Can you give a concrete, just a little example? How someone might do that?
Yeah. So, obviously I'm a fan of meditation. So for me, when I sit and I just take some breaths.
As am I.
Yeah, I know you are. You're probably the guru on that in this room here. But even just taking breaths for me, I will start to be able to hear what the voice inside my head is telling me. How do I really feel about this? What really is going on? Am I tense just because it's cold in here, or am I actually tense because I'm feeling triggered or scared or intimidated by someone else in the room? So for me, taking myself out of the situation and giving myself the space to take a few breaths, even at an event, taking myself out of the room, even just to do a check-in and give my body the option to talk to me and tell me what's going on, and giving it space, I'm having this living conversation with my whole self.
I think that some people don't really know that voice very well. Some, like you said at the end, conversation with yourself or something like that. I think that is way high level, PhD level, for some people. like a lot of people, and especially men, who've like been the sort of feeling, emotional side has just been beaten out of them. That's not how you be a man. That's stop crying.
I hate that. Crying is so powerful.
Yeah, I totally. Like I was crying this morning, so I mean, it's no big deal.
It isn't.
For me. Right.
It's like you're processing something fully instead of storing it or stashing it away for later, and then you get the dopamine hit of the tears that come out afterward.
They're healing. The tears calm, you heal. The mucus comes. Like, I'm a hot mess when it comes out, but then I'm lighter. I've processed all that emotion, and it's like my body is no longer reacting to that stored tension, right? That's just been stored there. So, like, yeah, crying, I'm all about crying. So, how would a beginner begin to, they can take deep breaths. I think a lot of people can do that and can know that and understand that. I've been told that. But then how about, like, you said listen to that voice. Can you take us from the breath to, like, the next thing that could, like, help train them to just get in touch with someone who's really blocked?
Yeah. So it's easy to connect with the voice. It's often telling us crappy stuff, though. I'm sure we can all connect with the negative version of this voice that says you're not good enough or there's something out to get you. So if you can start by connecting with that one, you can then kind of feel into the feeling of, okay, so when I hear that negative self-talk, there's actually a flip side to that that's positive intuition and connection with my higher self or the wise internal Yoda inside of me that really is going to guide me where I need to go. So I would just start even noticing when that voice that's negative is talking to you. And you don't even have to do anything, but just be like, I noticed that. And some people, and I've done this in the past, create a name for it. And oftentimes you can ask people, like, what would you name that negative voice? And the first name that comes to mind is generally the most accurate. And sometimes people come up with their mom's name or their mom's maiden name or some character from a movie. But when you create a personification of this negative voice, sort of like the good angel, bad angel analogy, you can start realizing that it isn't you. Because I think the first step is to feel, okay, this voice comes and talks to me, but this isn't who I am. I'm just responding to it. So just even noticing that when and maybe even taking a piece of paper and writing down what are the thoughts that are coming up. And one of the practices I've done specifically for me, I get anxiety and I get tension and worry. And when it gets really bad, what I do is I take sticky notes. And every time I have a thought that isn't positive and open and in the now and feeling really uplifting and optimistic. If it's like I'm worried about my truck payment this month, I'll write that down and I'll fold it up and I'll put it in a jar and I'll put the lid on it. And every time, the practice is for like 24 hours, giving yourself permission to just write down what that negative thought is. And when you start doing that, you recognize what time of day are those thoughts happening. Is it before I've had my breakfast, or is it after my workout but before dinner? Is it after I've talked to a certain person? You start to notice when they're cropping up and you can start getting more in tune that way. And you realize when the thought is separate from you and it's in the jar, there's something cathartic about seeing that you have a choice in connecting with that thought or not. And I love when it gets really bad for me, I'll keep that jar and I'll be like, okay, I'm going to write this thing down. I'm going to put it in the jar and I'm not thinking about it. I can come back to the jar later, tomorrow even. I can open up all my stickies of all the things I'm worried about and handle them if I have to. But right now in the moment, me feeling upset and worried about it isn't actually allowing me to be creative and feel good and think of solutions and be in an actual positive problem-solving mode. I'm only in this fear-reactive state. So those are some things I would do. So
they're noticing that voice, they're naming it, whatever pops into their head, and then they're going to start writing down those negative thoughts and like time stamping them and then noticing the patterns.
Exactly. Yeah.
And as they do that, they're increasing their awareness of that negative patterns that's in their head, that monkey mind, that whatever it's called.
Yeah, and noticing it, you don't even really have to there's more practices that you can do beyond that, but even just bringing a moment, like a spotlight on the thought and giving it a tiny bit of airtime as you write it down, as you're writing it down, even though you're about to outsource it for later or put it in your jar, it has that brief moment of your 100% focus while you're writing it, and it gets to have its say. So a lot of times nagging thoughts or fears or worries or negative emotions come up to inform us of something, but if we don't let them come and say their piece, they're just going to keep buzzing and buzzing and buzzing and talking and hanging out. Mm-hmm. And what I've had in the past is a deep fear of actually connecting with the negative feelings and thoughts that I've had. Mm-hmm. Because I thought, oh, if I tune into that, I'll just create more negativity in my life. I'll just create more fear if I acknowledge that I'm just terrified right now. And the opposite happens when you bring a thought in and you're not resisting it or not denying it or not hiding from it, but you have enough courage mm-hmm. to sit with the feeling. It doesn't even have to take long. Sometimes it takes seconds. I mean, sometimes there's deeper crying, like we just talked about, that needs to go on with that. But if you can be loving with that negative thought and let it in and stop pushing it away, it can communicate, it can heal, it can share what it was originally intended to share with you, which is guidance. And then it can move along its way. And you don't have this fear of your actual feelings.
So this is such good stuff. I want to make sure that those who are still struggling to feel know how to stop, because you said you need to stop resisting that feeling, whatever it is. How do they feel when there's it's like nothing's there? They're so used to blocking it all out. They have so much resistance in their body that they're just it's not working for me.
Yeah.
I don't got time for this. This doesn't work. This is BS. This mm-hmm. whole feeling thing is just it's crap.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know that it can take a while. Mm-hmm. It can take a while.
Yeah.
To get to feel emotions.
You're so right.
Because that's been my journey.
Yeah.
It's taken a while, and I'm still working on that.
Yeah, we have to warm up to it. Sometimes it's a skill we haven't utilized since we were little babies, where we just let sensations come and we weren't judging them, we just let them happen. So here's what I would say. First is decide that you want to start feeling. Maybe you don't want to have all of them show up right now. That's really not pleasant. Mm-hmm. But set your intention that, and ask your body, ask your subconscious mind, ask your heart to start opening up. So I would start with that, because a lot of times people will say they want to start feeling, or they don't feel anything. And I've done this, but I really didn't want to. So I kept thinking, oh, it's time for me to feel, but on the back end, I'm preventing. So even just setting your own intention for yourself that I'd like to feel more. And that opens a lot of doors, communicating with your body and just asking it to work with you as you explore and taking it really easy. The next thing I would do would be go soft. A lot of times when you're not feeling feelings, we're not feeling our emotions, we're not actually feeling feelings in our body. Is this stuffed animal that I'm touching, mm-hmm. what does that texture actually feel like? Mm-hmm. So start with something easy in your physical world. What does the smell of your cologne, what does that actually smell like? What does it remind you of? Mm-hmm. What does your coffee taste like this morning? Is it on the sweet side, on the bitter side, mm-hmm. on the rich side? And give yourself positive experiences with connecting with your outside world. Notice soft textures. Just give yourself permission, because feelings and emotions can be fun. They can be amazing. We have a massive range here. Mm-hmm. And start with something that brings you back in connection with your body and starts giving you positive experiences with it. That's what I'd recommend to kind of warm yourself up.
Mm-hmm. And all those things help to get you in the now, help to bring presence by getting in touch with your skin, all your senses, your perception. You're getting in touch with the now. You're not thinking of the past. You're not thinking ahead of time. So you're just here in the moment, and by touching and sort of feeling yourself sometimes, it's nice just to sort of squeeze your arm, get in touch with your body, just sort of love yourself a bit. And I guarantee that most people who don't ever do that, don't ever, I mean, unless you're like already into spirituality, into energy work, into that sort of other kind of side, But no one teaches us this stuff. No one teaches us in school. No one learns this in college. It's just not part of mainstream society.
Not at all. And we live in our brains. In Western culture, we value linear thinking and productivity. And as entrepreneurs, that's essential. And our consciousness can end up living between our ears when in reality we could imagine our consciousness floating to any part of our body, in our heart. What does it feel like when we're hanging out mentally in our feet? And what's the physical sensation of the grass on our feet? So we can kind of go from the inside down to the foot and feel what the foot's feeling on the outside. And start creating positive connections, because when we're feeling a lot of these feelings and we're numb and or we're not feeling feelings and we're numb and we're locked up, we are almost always disconnected from the body. So finding, like you said, positive ways. I've found foam rolling, massaging out muscles and sort of working the blood and the tissue back to my heart center helped me sort of like regroup my energy field and bring me back to home. So anything along those lines. I mean, we could talk about yoga or running or walking or stretching. Anything that you can do to bring yourself back to the body is helpful.
Yeah. I want to then also talk about meditation a bit. Most people talk about meditation as in like, you gotta sit for an hour and you gotta not move, and like if you move, you're doing it wrong, and if your mind drifts, you're doing it wrong. But a lot of people have things that they do that they don't even really think about it. Like, I know, like rock climbing. I know some people who do that are in the moment. They lose themselves, and they find themselves sort of thoughtless for periods of time as they're scaling the wall. I'm not a rock climber, but that's what I've heard from a lot of rock climbers. And so they're figuring out that puzzle, and they have to concentrate and focus, which that's what meditation is. It's focusing the mind. It's directing your attention on something. So I was wondering what other types of examples for somebody who maybe wants to do meditation, ways that they could enhance that or get more of that in their life.
Awesome. I love that. I love the rock climbing analogy, because I'll snowboard. And when I'm snowboarding, I can only focus on exactly where I'm going to turn my board. And I'm not worrying about a bunch of other things in my life. I'm fully in the moment. So I love that. A couple other things that I do is when I cook, sometimes I have a podcast on, but I'm like slicing things up. It's very repetitive. I'm able to kind of drop in and sort of like softly hang out with myself. And maybe a thought comes up like, call your mom, or, you need to stand up for yourself here, or whatever. But there's enough quiet space for me to feel those thoughts and feelings come up. Another thing I do is watercolor painting, specifically because it's not right angled. I can't always control the flow of water, so when I'm in it, my brain has to kind of become like a little droplet of water and sort of like soften itself. And so when I'm painting, I'm 100% in that moment. So those types of activities are a good, easy way to start bridging the gap.
Awesome. So let's switch gears, because I didn't tell you, but Tara is also an entrepreneur as well. Yeah. And so this is going to be great, because our audience is all about practical and strategy and those types of things too. And so, like, you have both skills. I mean, you have the emotional processing, energetic side, and like you can make money and like marketing and funnels and email campaigns are like the best of them, like kicking ass. So, tell us a little bit about your business.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, well, like many people, I started out doing many different things, trying everything from SaaS to landscape design to Amazon product, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot of what I didn't like doing, but I got really clear on the things that really light me up, and I made some rules for myself, and that was to always show up and be me, and that whatever I was going to do and create would always come from my authentic self, not from following a pattern that I was trying to follow to get to an end result with money or time freedom or location freedom. So I had to sort of get my hard knocks and finally relax into, all we're out here doing is figuring out who each of us are and what our gifts are. So recently I've been able to relax into the powerful revelation for me that I work with celebrities. I work with artists, creatives, producers, people whose energy is dependent on the quality of the work they do. It's highly essential that who they're being is the highest version of themselves, because it affects a TV show. It affects masterpieces they're creating, music they're recording. So a lot of the work that I'm doing is relationship consulting or lifestyle consulting, showing up and just being with someone and noticing what comes up during the day. And I was thinking about this. Everyone has the go to your therapist. Like, we all understand what that concept is. But how I see myself is I'm the therapist who comes to you, and you don't have to lie down in a chair. You just get to go about your daily life, and we get to interact and just notice what comes up for you. And it's never about what's wrong or what's broken or what needs fixing, but what are other choices we can make in the moment to feel better, to pull our power back so that we have an opportunity to show up in this life and live our best version and create the work we're meant to create.
So what would you say, because I bet there's some people that would be like, say like, that sounds awesome. Like, I want to work with a celebrity. And they're like, how do I do that? Can you give, like, the first step? Or how would someone who wants to do what you're doing, what advice would you give them? How would you say, like...
So, I'm a homeschooled Christian girl from Portland, Oregon, or was raised Christian. And when I had this feeling of I'm supposed to work with these people, my first thought was, who am I? What do I know? What do I have to offer? I'm not from Hollywood. I don't know how to create and do all these things. But the feeling came from such a deep place inside of me that I knew it was truth, even though it scared me crazy, and I could only like barely whisper it to a girlfriend. So my first tip, I guess, would be acknowledging what you want and what you feel really is your truth, regardless of what your background experience is, regardless of what tangible things are showing up in your life, regardless of if it makes sense or not. Because it's been over a year for me since I acknowledged that, and many things have come in, but it all started from me just being real with myself. So that would be the first thing. And that applies whether you want to work with a celebrity or not. The second thing I did was...
So, just telling yourself that you can do it, because you sounds like to me like you were saying, like, who am I to think that I can do this? I'm not from Hollywood.
And it was more honed in than that. It was, who are you to even want that?
Yeah, I can resonate with that myself.
Who are you to desire that? That's not an okay thing for you to want to have.
I think a lot of people have that.
Yeah. And the reason a lot of our dreams take a little bit longer to manifest or show up in real life is because we wait to give ourselves permission to actually want some crazy cool stuff. And I think that ownership piece comes first.
We get in the way. We self-sabotage.
Yeah. It's too crazy. I need to see it first. Where's the blueprint? Who else has done this before? All of that is just noise and really irrelevant when we need to start with the feeling of just letting the dream be your dream.
What were we going to say next? Number 2?
I was going to say next. I didn't even know what I was going to really offer or share or sell. I just said, I'm supposed to be working with these folks. So then it was another 4 months into February of this year, and I was drafting out my year. I was doing a Journal of the Year activity book where you map out not only your tangible goals that you want, but the emotional goals you want to experience, sort of the feelings you want to have and the version of yourself. So it's a rather in-depth activity book. I'm forgetting the name of the gal who created it. It was amazing. And I remember writing down, I want to be working with my first celebrity client by November of 2017. And I had no clue what the package would be. I had no clue what the offer. I didn't know anything, but I just thought, November feels like plenty of time and it feels safe enough. I'll put it way, way, way out there. And this is, and I know this isn't necessarily a plan that I'm giving people or a step by step this will happen, but what I'm giving is the energy of lining up with your true dream, because in 2 days, someone forwarded me a link to apply to work with a celebrity, son of a producer. So I was able to, he's a life coach he's a celebrity turned life coach. So I was able to connect with him. I didn't even realize he was famous at first, but he was looking for support in his business. And this, for me, was the first step in I didn't even fully realize his fame as son of famous Hollywood producer. And I thought, you know what, this guy's vibe feels great. I'd love to work with him. So I applied, and we ended up working together, and it's been 6 months. And now here we are in October, November, when I had originally set my goal, and within 2 days I had connected with the person I was originally supposed to connect with.
So, taking back to that moment, when you were applying and meeting and all that stuff, did you have any doubt, any fear when this opportunity landed in your lap?
When I realized what had happened and how powerful I was to have created and called this in, yeah, I was scared. I thought, who am I to be of value in this position? I did a little bit of putting people on a pedestal, even though Brandy's amazing and down to earth and super awesome. But I had a little bit of that quiver. But at the same time, I had this recognition of that's my opportunity. And even though I'm feeling a little uncomfort and discomfort and maybe a little bit of butterflies in the stomach because this is a big step, it was too clear. I had already kind of felt into what I wanted to create in my life, and the opportunity was too clear. And if I didn't step up into that, I knew that I was going to be, walking away from something that was handed to me on a silver platter that felt like that next logical step that we're all searching for, that next clue on the journey.
I think that's the critical moment that everybody has had in their life, and some have had the courage, mustered the courage, and said yes, even though they feel, who am I? I am unworthy. And there are those that have said no. And it doesn't mean that the next opportunity you're going to say no. You could say yes. But it just means that when you've said no, you've taken a different path. And you may or may not have had regret about saying no and listened to that negative voice, which whatever name it is, you're not worthy, you're not good enough. Who are you? Someone else is better. Someone else, I'm not going to get that. I'm not going to get that job. I'm not going to get that raise. I'm not going to get that bonus.
I've never done it before.
I've never done it before. So, what did you do to say yes and take that opportunity? To not listen to that small voice that said, I'm just from Portland.
I recognized I'd asked for it. So I thought, I asked for it, and here it is. Now what?
So that's super, super important, is you need to ask for it. You need to put it down. And like journaling is important. Mm-hmm. And so if you're not putting it down, then when you see that opportunity, you haven't written it down, so it just was like, meh, it's just another thing in your life, right? We have to make these decisions all the time. Opportunities present, they're like every day they come to our life, right? So you're just choosing, and the fact that you wrote it down seems like that was important, because then it manifested in like 2 days later.
Yeah.
So it was super clear.
It was, and I even gave myself this massive buffer time of about 7 months for me to figure my stuff out and be ready for it. And I put it in a calendar. I put a calendar date on it, and I didn't do anything else other than just let that be enough. And friend of a friend threw a link through Facebook Messenger, apply to this, and it just sort of unfolded. So yeah, I like that you emphasize that point, because it is true. When we write things down, we're bringing it out of headspace and into reality, even if it only lives in our bullet journal or on our, Google Docs. At least we can see it outside of our own consciousness, outside of our own body.
Mm-hmm. So where are you going from here as you grow this business and expand? But I also want you to keep in mind how others might be following or have similar ambition as you.
Yeah. So whenever I'm mapping out where I want to go, whether it's a life choice or business choice, I try to feel into what feels fun, what feels light, what makes my heart relax and my shoulders drop, what just sounds, so natural. And previously I would have thought, my path will be littered with hard work and I'll have to prove my salt and I'll have to struggle. And I've made a different choice for myself. And that is that all of the things that I need to do along my path aren't necessarily going to all be super easy, but the feeling is going to be expansive. It's going to feel open. It's going to feel like the right thing to do. And even when I'm not clear, I'm going to make a choice and go down that path and see if it feels clear. So one of the tools that I use that I think people will really benefit from is when you're faced with a decision, does it feel open and light, or does your body kind of contract and like shrink and shrivel? Because your body will automatically know the answer, even if your mind is still going through pros and cons. So recently, I've been asking myself, well, what would I just be doing if I had plenty of money, if I had plenty of time? And I would really love to be working with these A-list celebrities, these creative people who are changing the world with their art on such a high level. I just love to be playing with them and with their energy. So I let myself want and desire that, and I shared it with a trusted group of people. And I did private coaching with my coach as well, and I said, this is what I want. What feels like a good plan for me? What's in alignment? And I let other people in on my big dream. I verbalized it. I didn't just keep it inside of me. And I let them give me feedback. How can I connect with my next client or work, partnership? And some of the feedback scared the crap out of me. And I had to but because I'd set my intention of this is what I want this really fun, awesome, collaborative lifestyle working with these people, I'm willing to go through whatever between point A and B is going to take me. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be awesome. But I'm bringing more awareness to the moments when I want to shrink back and hide and think I'm not ready. I'm not good enough. I'm not available now. And so I made a commitment to look at my choices. And instead of thinking, that's 6 months out, that's a year out, I asked myself, how can it be now? How can I be ready to work with Charlize Theron tomorrow? What would that take? What would that look like? So for people wanting to get to that big dream and goal, one of the tools that I'm using and that might support them as well is, what would it be like if I was working with her? Who would I be showing up as? What would I be wearing? What would I have had for breakfast? What kinds of things would we be talking about? And one of my favorite things, I have a Google Drive, and I put pictures in, followed by copy describing what it might look like to work with her. And I write in there, what would I be doing? How would I be being? And that's a taking it out of my mind and where I'm spinning, wondering, curious, this and that. And I'm actually sort of writing a script to my own life. And for me, that works.
So you're visualizing this and making it as real as you can, and then you're writing it down and documenting it, which only makes it even more real, right?
Yes. And it doesn't mean every tiny thing happens exactly as I write it, but the thing I'm looking for is that feeling of, I'm prepared. I got this. If I met her at Soul Cycle, I could just have a natural conversation with her, and I would feel confident knowing that whoever I am, if we're meant to work together, is enough. So I sort of sort through all of that, and I can tap into the energy of who I would be being if I was able to just have that goal now. Yep.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. Because then it's like there, and you just got to slip into it. You've already thought it out, and you already kind of know what you would talk about, what you'd be wearing, and that you've already sort of then forecasted for you and yourself.
Yeah.
Takes the pressure off in a way.
Right, and what we're looking for is a feeling of, that would be normal. I can totally see that happening. Because when we're feeling that's normal for me, we're in harmony with the things that we're asking for versus leaving a gap. We're always trying to close that gap between what we want and what we're allowing. And one of Abraham Hicks' quotes that I love goes something like, you know you're in alignment when it's normal for you. And I love that, because anytime I'm feeling disconnected, and I don't feel like I could be in my dream right now, that's where I know there's a little bit of work I could do to explore, well, what would it be like? And just sort of poke around and see if I can find the feelings of what that could be like.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So I love energy. You probably can tell. I love to work in the non-tangible things that we can master that create tangible results. So, and you also mentioned that I'm an empath, so I have a really highly tuned emotional center. So I can feel when my heart constricts a little bit, or I can feel when my heart relaxes and opens. So a lot of times when we're not feeling clear on what our next step is or where we need to go, we'll feel fuzzy-headed, or we'll feel sort of like a numbness in our heart, like what to do. A lot of people will leave that and think, well, when the time comes, I'll know, or when, I'm supposed to step up, it'll be crystal clear. But that's not always the case. Going into that foggy zone and sort of poking around and realizing you have the power to decide what it might be like. And maybe there's research that you go on to talk to other people who've been there and done that. Or maybe it's, journaling out your biggest fantasy about what it might be like. But anything we can do to take that cloudy, nebulous space of vague energy and make it more concrete is going to be useful. So you've heard me journal. Meditation, I do quite a bit, even just sitting and breathing. And I get ideas and suggestions that from myself to myself. And when you take the time to open yourself up, you'll get little nudges like call Rebecca or Google this.
There's another direction that I want to take this conversation, if you're up for it, is that I know you also are traveling and living mobile, like nomadic lifestyle in like an RV. And I think a lot of people have thought about that and like that lifestyle and what it might be, what they like, and that's cool, like the digital nomadic lifestyle. So you're doing that. So, and you also have a kitty cat. Yes. So, right? So, what's it like to be, so you have this big Chevy 350 dually, and you're pulling like a big 44-foot long triaxle RV, and it's registered in Texas because of whatever reasons it was easier or something like that, and mail forwarding was good.
Yep.
So talk a little bit about that, because I think a lot of people have thought about that or are sort of on the way to think about that.
Let's do it. So Oprah says you can have everything you want, but you might not be able to have everything at once. There's always this trade-off, right? So there's good things about having a stable location and, a home in one place that's not moving around. And there's benefits like location independence and travel and all these other things. And making the switch from my house into an RV really highlighted to me all those things that we have to be willing to be flexible on if we're going to go with a nomadic lifestyle. So it's amazing. I love traveling. I get to go see people who I might not otherwise get to meet. I get a lot more community. I feel like I pack more into my life just in general because I'm traveling and seeing the country. However, it's taught me the importance of surrendering my time. Meaning, I might have an agenda and a schedule where I have a meeting at 8 a.m. and then I want to do this, that, and this and that. Well, sometimes when you're in an RV, you have to stop early because you're tired or you need to get propane. And so there's these other things that just pop up along the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, you wouldn't have to get propane or stop to fuel up if you have a home.
I know.
Right.
Your home's not going anywhere.
Yeah. How has the cat, the pet thing worked out for you?
Awesome. Well, mostly awesome. She makes it feel like a home to actually have an animal in the vehicle. And I know a lot of your listeners are probably pet owners. And you come home from work and they're right there. They don't care if they're in a cargo crate or a condo or a mansion. They're just there to love you. So there's that familiar, fun presence. But something else about the cat is, her name is Wiley, and we treat her like a small dog. We treat her like, instead of being, oh, she's going to be a nervous animal and it's going to be scary, we treat her like, nah, she's down to travel. She's down to have adventure. We expect her to behave in a certain way, and she does. We have a little cat tree I have a little litter box with a lid. Like, she just rides in the cab of the truck. She sits in my lap. She's not an outdoor cat. She might, go on adventures without me, and I'm not ready for that. So, we keep her in the RV, but it's been great. It's been very grounding, because when you're in an RV traveling quite a bit, you need grounding in your life, because different view out your window all the time, different sounds, different neighborhood, different climate. So she brings a lot of consistency and love into that equation.
Mm-hmm. Do you sort of stick to the southern part of the States during the winter and go sort of back north?
Totally, yes.
During the summer?
Yes. So RVing in the snow is not fun. I'm very lazy, so I don't want to shovel anything off the top of my thing. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, we stay in the southern states when it's cold. Put the RV in, storage for a while, head up and snowboard. That's one of my main passions, and one of the main reasons I decided to make the trade-off to go mobile was so that I can go be where the adventure is, where the snow is for me. The interesting thing about the summer is it gets super duper hot in some places really quickly. So you get to be in tune with nature. Uh-huh. The RV walls are rather thin, so whatever's going on outside is going on inside. So we're understanding the difference between Phoenix and the difference between San Diego and the difference between Colorado and Utah at all different climates. So it's a different head scratcher to figure that out at first. And we kind of had to get out there and actually sense what 101 degrees is like, mm-hmm. with 3 ARCs going full bore before we figured it out.
Yeah, gotcha. I think a lot more people will be going into this new RV life. A lot of young internet professionals, marketers, and already are doing that already. Because they all they need is an internet connection and a laptop, and boom, they can do web design, they can do graphic design, they can do marketing and ads, and they don't need anything else.
Yep.
So there's going to be a huge growth and boom in that industry. So totally. It's not just retired oldies like baby boomers that are, So I bet you run into a lot of retirees, and do they wonder what is it how are you guys able to do this lifestyle? You're not 65.
So the retirees, the snowboards, they kind of don't, or the snowbirds, they kind of don't care. They've been retired so long, they can't be bothered to care. Sometimes they ask, but it's a lot of times other people our age, millennials, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, who are still working. They're like, well, wait, how is this happening? Because a lot of times we meet people on vacation, so we're able to tell what we're up to that way. And then you see the gears click and oh, yeah, that internet thing, that would make it really possible to travel.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Would it be okay if I gave a few tips on internet?
Absolutely.
On the road? Because I know that's...
right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Starbucks is your BFF. And it's not about the coffee. It's about the consistency of the Wi-Fi. That is hands down the number one place to go. And there's all of these amazing locations pretty much everywhere you go. So that's your number one tip. In a pinch, you can do McDonald's, but I like green over red, so we go Starbucks. The RV makes you conscious of your data, because when you're at an RV resort, oftentimes it's sketchy, low quality. So if you need to do some high caliber work, going into that Starbucks, time blocking, knowing, okay, I'll be there from 8 to 12, I'll get this done and I'll move on. That's another great tip. And then the Verizon MiFi packs. I don't know if you've seen those. They're little hotspots. Uh-huh. Those are hands down the best way to purchase your if you need to work from your RV, and the resort Wi-Fi is usually pretty crappy, you can just flip that thing on. And then being creative as far as downloading shows to your laptop, so you're not just streaming. You get really conscious of how luxurious it is.
Yeah, to have a high-speed internet connection at home. And so, that's interesting, because I, as a traveling therapist, often I would just be traveling from home to home to home. And so I would be in my car and then see a patient and then see the next patient. And so sometimes I would want to have a good internet connection, and I wouldn't want to stay in my patient's home after therapy. That would be really weird. And so I discovered what you discovered, that Starbucks actually has the best consistent Wi-Fi, and second is McDonald's. So, but I never quite put it together because it wasn't, I still had an office and I still had a home that I could go to where I could finish up my paperwork, or I could go to the office and do the documentation. And so that's nice to have that tip for people. And so that consistency is super important, because I'm also been having an entrepreneurship life at the same time that I've been doing speech therapy, and sometimes there's a webinar or a Skype call that I want to get, and so I would leave an hour between my patients, but sometimes they live in a rural area and I have to drive as fast as I could and get to like the place that has a good internet connection. I found a good one actually at a grocery store, a giant grocery store, but it had a Starbucks inside, but they had a little eating area, and they had like super fast connection. So I made a save that spot on my Google Maps, so I would come back to that place. And so I came back and I did a live Q&A call about Ibiza and this whole retreat. And, you know, it was good because we had like 18 megabits per second download in this grocery store, right?
What? I like that. That's probably better than Starbucks because you don't have other internet entrepreneurs using the bandwidth. It's probably just other people eating.
Yeah. There was, I think it was 2 people there, right? It was like, so I had the whole little thing to myself.
The things you appreciate when you don't have your own Wi-Fi.
It's the little things. Yeah. So that's awesome. I love the flow of this call as we went from energy work and emotions and meditation, and then we went into your business, consulting and relating it, but also tying back into your heart and listening to that voice, and then transitioning to RVing and the practical and the here and the now. And so thanks for sharing your truth, your journey with our listeners. What's the best way I know a lot of people will identify with you and would like to connect with you, and just how can they do that?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook under Tara Green.
Okay.
My background picture is My Religion is Magic.
Okay.
So that's a good place. Also, I'm on Instagram at The Radiant Goddess, and you'll see my big smiling face as part of my profile image there too. I love to connect with people and hear about their journey and what they're creating. No detail too mundane. It's all fun and a great adventure for me. So I'm so honored to get to connect with both you, Gabriel, and your listeners.
Sweet. So we'll wrap it up there. And as always, we're always trying to improve this show. So if you have comments or question or feedback, drop us a line and let us know how we can make it better for you. Thanks. Bye-bye.